Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online player requested character build. And today guys I bring you the Bone Stalker Ranger. Now this is very similar to the Storm Ranger in a lot of ways. It is a bow build. It can use dual wield and bow if you want it to. It works much better with bow on both bars in my opinion because of the way the class is designed. The Necromancer is just amazing at that. Now, before I go any further, disclaimer, this is a role-play casual build. This is not meant for meta play in any way, shape, or form. This is for us role-players and casuals to have a character to play the game and just enjoy it how we want. Now, another disclaimer. All builds can be tank, healer, damage dealer, support, whatever you need them to be. That is the reason why I set them up to be more hybridized than anything. Is so that this way you can build the character into the different roles that you want to do depending on the situation. Every character is going to play a certain role. They're going to play a tank, a healer, or damage dealer primarily. But with this setup you can actually change to being a tank, even with this character, or a damage dealer with this character, a healer with this character, and so on and so forth. I did that because I want people to be able to play their characters and just have fun. So that's why I do the builds the way I do. I understand a lot of people don't understand that, or they don't quite grasp that, because it goes a little bit beyond the atypical. So, just to clarify, that's why I do a lot of the things we do, or I do. So the idea of this character was given to me by one of you guys, requested it, that I create a Necromancer Ranger character, kind of, or a bow Necromancer that was called the Bone Stalker. I love the name. That is so awesome. So I did. I created this for that person and for the rest of you, because I'm always going to share the ideas that not only that I come up with, but that other people come up with, because I want there to be a lot of diversity in this game. I want the community to see that there is a lot more options in this game than what we're shown most of the time. So that's where the idea of this came from. I chose an orc because I kind of felt like it really fit into this kind of idea, and you guys will see what I'm talking about when we get into the character. So let's go ahead and take a look at the character. Bone Stalker Ranger player character, Orc Necromancer. Now, as you can see, I do have 64 points into stamina. That is so I can play stamina DPS better than anything else. As you can see, my magicka pool is kind of low. My max health is 20k. My max stamina is 32,000. My stamina recovery is coming in at 1162 with a 536 mag recovery. Really low on the mag recovery side, but that's okay. We are not here to be support right now. We are here to be a damage dealer. Moving on to weapon damage, you can see we have 2270 with a 48% weapon critical. We do have a 13k spell resist with an 11,000 physical resist. I tried fixing this, but for some reason I couldn't get it to balance out like I do with most of my other things with the CP. And I think it's because I have too many points into here. I'm gonna just try something, guys, real quick. I want to see if that's could be a problem, because this isn't a light armor build, you fool. Yeah, you guys seem to call me one too. It's all right. I do it all the time. Let's see if that's better. There we go. 13 and 13. That's the way we want it. So, I get asked all the time, why do I do that? Well, if you look at the resistance base of your base resistance, on most characters in light armor, 13,000 isn't the base. The base is more around like 11,000. 11,000 in resistance is roughly about 12 or 13% damage mitigation. With this, it goes to about 15-16%. So you actually get more damage mitigation this way in the long run. So that's why I build for higher resistances this way. Now moving on to the Thief. The Monostone, we are using the Thief for the higher crit rate. We do have Minor Berserk at all times because we are using Slime Craw. That works really good on bow builds. And we are using the Dubious Cameron Throne right now for the stamina recovery, the max health, and max stamina. We can use Tri-Stat with this build. Just to show you guys, you can use Tri-Stat food. You do lose a decent chunk in recovery, but you go to 33k stamina, 22k health, 17k magicka. This is what I want to point out too when I say that a character can do a lot more than what most people realize, is because when you use different foods and different potions, you can actually take advantage of different aspects of your character. And when you use different enchants and different traits and stuff on your character, you can make your character do a lot more than just focus into one area of the game. You can give them the ability to branch out into different roles when they need to be. So that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. So let's go back and put this back on Dubious Cameron Throne. And let's go ahead and take a look at the gear. So looking at the potions, we do have tripods here for when we play tank or healer. We do have, or tank I mean, we do have Dubious Cameron Throne for when we focus in a stamina DPS. We do have the warrior power pots for our damage for stamina DPS. And you can use the spell power pots, the stamina power pots for stamina DPS, spell power pots if you're going to play more focused into healing. And those are options. Just like using dual wield with this is an option that you can do. So, or if you want to use sword and shield, that is an option. If you have the skill points to learn those skills, then do it, and you can take advantage of that because now your character is not just one role. So that's the reason why I use the dual wield here, and I also have the dual bows, is because not all the time are you going to want to use dual bow, especially if you're playing by yourself out in the world. There's going to be times where using dual wield is going to be more effective for you, like when you're in a dungeon or a delve, public dungeon or a delve, I mean. And even when you're playing in some dungeons, using dual wield is going to make you more effective at dealing damage than using bow. Alright. So now that you guys seen that stuff, let's go over the sets. We're going to start with the monster set. Of course, it's Slime Craw. And as you guys all know, the 2-piece adds spell crit and weapon crit. It also gives you minor berserk at all times, increasing your damage done by 8%. Now this is all damage you deal, whether it be magicka or stamina damage. All damage you deal is boosted by 8%. On top of that, your weapon and spell critical, because it's a little bit higher on the spell side, you can actually take advantage of that higher spell critical for when you need a healing skill for your group or something like that, or you want to offer some group support through some of your other skills built into your class, built into your other skill lines, like the guild skill lines, like Mages Guild, Fighters Guild, Psijic Order, that kind of stuff. You can actually take advantage of that. Now, moving on to the first set we have. Now this is something I wanted to try. I've been wanting to try this for a while, and it is the Archer's Mind set. Now this drops in Dragonstar Arena, and because it is a drop set in Dragonstar Arena, you're going to think, well, I got to run Dragonstar to get it. You don't. People actually sell this set. This is the only set that drops in Arena that can be sold to players. So this is actually a pretty easy set to get if you buy it from a guild trader. And as you can see, the 2-piece is max stamina, 3-piece is weapon critical, 4-piece is weapon critical, and then the 5-piece. When you increase your critical damage by 5% and increase your critical damage by an additional 10% when you are from sneak or invisibility. The reason I picked this set is because, one, it works really good in PvE, but it also adds to your ability in PvP to be a stealth ganker type character. Because you can come out of stealth with this and just whack. Especially with like a lethal arrow. And you guys will see why I say that. The next set we use is Swamp Raiders. Holy cow. Swamp Raiders on a Necromancer, doesn't matter whether you're playing stamina DPS or you're playing like a tanky type character, this is a awesome wicked set. Because it does so much. It gives you weapon critical, weapon damage, more stamina, and then adds 400 weapon damage to your poison and disease abilities. I just want to show you this. Poison, disease, poison, or physical, sorry, and disease. Disease. And then you go over here to the Bone Tyrant. This is physical damage, but you still get a ton of weapon damage out of your character that boosts all this stuff. And then you have this stuff that does like immense amounts of damage. So this design is made to to work off this whole idea of, hey, I want to maximize my DPS as much as possible. And that's what it allows you to do. So it's a really cool design. I really love playing this way because it gives you a lot of options. And the fact that most bow abilities are poison based, so it really applies to that. Now, let's go over the traits and enchants. So on the head, we do have it reinforced because it is a heavy piece. We want to take advantage of that higher resistances. Now, since we aren't using a crafted set, we can't make the chest reinforced, which would give us 3,800 and something. Instead, we're using the helm, which only gives us 2,800 or something. So kind of lower on the spectrum of resistances by 1,000. So normally we would have 14,000 if we were using something like Hunting's Rage or Night Mother's Gaze or even Kvetch's Gladiator here. So we're using this set instead. Now on this piece you can see we have Invigorating and we also have Invigorating on the leggings. The reason we did Invigorating on these two is so this way, either way you go, if you're playing a healer and you're using Dubious Cameron Throne, you're going to get 22 more recovery in Magicka and 22 more recovery in Stamina. So that 22, when you add in all the different benefits and stuff from the different percentage value increases, that 22 becomes more like 100. So it's really important that you maximize your character's potential in a lot of different ways so you can take advantage of those different roles you play. And the main reason why we do this in heavy is so that we can tank. We're not going to be a super effective tank. We're going to be a better healer and damage dealer or healer or support character than we will a tank. But we can still do it if it's necessary. And you can tank basically all base game dungeons on normal and veteran, and most of the DLC dungeons, well, you can tank all of them on normal, and you can tank some on veteran. You will also be able to tank some trials on normal and veteran, like the Craglorn trials, but you won't be able to do like Mauve Lorcage on veteran or any of the DLC trials. And that's because your character is just not designed to be a main tank for that. But you can off tank for that. So, just letting you know. Excuse me, guys. Got a annoying frog in my throat. Hopefully some water will clear it up. Alright, moving on. Now, on the smaller pieces, we are using Divines with all max stamina enchants. Now, these stamina enchants, I get asked this all the time too. Why do you use stamina and not Tri-Stat? The reason I don't use Tri-Stat here is because Tri-Stat gives you 100 health, 100 stamina, 100 magicka. I'm not building a character that's supposed to be a true hybrid, so I don't need that. I'm building the character to be more based on stamina than magicka and health, but I still want to take advantage of the higher health, magicka, and magicka from the Tri-Stats and my other equipment that you'll see in a minute on why I set up this way. So the stamina is just to maximize our max stamina. That's how we do that. Now, if you want to maximize magicka and stamina, you would make these two magicka and these two stamina. Your stamina pool is going to drop to about 31,000. Your magicka pool will go up to about 14k roughly with this, and then with the Tri-Stat food you go to about 20k magicka. So moving on to the jewelry. The two jewelry pieces we have here are both weapon damage enchants with Tri-Rune, and the Tri-Rune is there again to allow us to hybridize our character. On the final piece, we do have a Bloodthirsty necklace with a Stam Recovery. Now, the reason I put Stam Recovery here was to give us that better capability of stamina resource management. If I didn't put a Stam Recovery here, we'd be below 900, or right at around 920 something. And that sucks when you have that low of stamina recovery. Trust me. This allows you to build for the higher stamina recovery. And with using the Dubious Cameron Throne and a Power Pot, you get to about 1,500 stamina recovery, so you don't have very many issues with stamina resources. Moving on to the weapons, we are using a Nirnhoned front bar bow with a Disease enchant And then on the back bar, we are using an infused weapon damage enchant. Now, you can use an absorbed stamina here, but the reason I like the disease enchant is so that way you can apply that minor defile every once in a while. In PvP, it really helps out. In PvE, it can help out too, depending on the situation. So if you're fighting a lot of trash that has a lot of healers, hitting those healers with this really helps because it reduces their healing done and received. So... and that is that. Now we're going to move over here to these two weapons. We do have a Swamp Raider's Dagger infused disease damage, and then a Swamp Raider's Dagger absorbs stamina Nirnhone. And you can use, you can either swap these and go Nirnhone here with an infused offhand absorbed stamina. That's up to you. Either way works. So I just like it like this. This is my main hand. This is my offhand. Now that you guys have seen that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about skills. So starting on this bar, you can see I took all the stamina morphed skills I could on this character. The reason why is because I focus more into stamina play. So I'm going to take advantage of all the stamina abilities I have. I am going to use a couple magic abilities in my character. And then on the Bone Tyrant side, I'm going to take everything I can that's going to make me the kind of tank I want to be. So... and then the same thing goes with Living Death. And you can do this with any class. Any class has the capabilities. If you look at a Templar, they have a whole line dedicated to healing. They have one that's dedicated to more offense, and then one that's dedicated more to offense, I guess. You could say one's more magica offense, one's more stamina-based offense. But you have, like, the healer line, which is, like, the really supportive line. Then you have, like, this other line and so on and so forth. Every class has the capability to play a tank, a healer, and damage dealer. And every class, if you unlock their passives and their skills, give you the option to build into all three roles. So that's why I unlock all the class skills and passives. Now moving on to weapon skills, we do have dual wield unlocked for when we need it, and the passives. You can do this with one-handed sword and shield if you have the skill points. As you can see, I have 139 skill points sitting here doing nothing. I can unlock sword and shield, I can unlock destruction staff, I can even unlock resto staff if I wanted to. But I'd probably be better off with restoration staff and two-handed and sword and shield than I would be with destruction staff, because my character is more stamina based. The only reason why I'd use a restoration staff is for healing purposes, to play as a healer. So you can learn other things. So dual wield is our primary melee damage weapon, so we're going to learn that. And then bow, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to learn all the bow abilities and passives. Now I did take all the poison damage abilities and passives, and this thing's just a monster of damage. I'm not kidding you. This thing just breathes, eats, sleeps, destruction. Moving on to armor. Light armor. And I did this again. Holy cow. I've been doing this a lot, guys. Sorry. And medium. This is a medium armor build, by the way. That's probably why I'm looking at this build going, what is wrong with it? That or they just reset on me and I didn't even realize that they, like when they did the Passover on this, the update today or whatever, maintenance, it could have reset them. I don't know. But I did have this set up with Shuffle. I know that. So... might explain, yeah, see, I should be at 55% spell weapon critical with the 2600 weapon damage, and 1366 stamina recovery, and 557 mag recovery. See, this is what irritates me sometimes. So make sure, on the light armor, you get the top three. This is so you can play. You'll have more spell resist, you'll have more max magic, or mag recovery, and reduced magic ability cost. And then you have the Grace, which reduces your snares being applied to you. It also reduces the cost of your sprint per piece of light armor. Medium armor gives you the dexterity, the increased weapon critical. Windwalker increases your stam recovery and your reduced stamina cost. Then you have Sneak, which improves your sneak capability and your detection size. Agility, which increases your weapon damage by 10%. And then Athletics, which reduces your or increases your movement speed of sprint by 3% per piece of medium armor equipped, and you also get the increased roll dodge reduction. So medium armor characters work really good with roll dodging. Heavy armor, we're going to take Resolve. This is going to increase spell and physical resist. Now you should see, yeah, see, we're closer to 14,000 on both bars now. And this is where we want to be. Because now, if you equip a sword and shield and the Lady Mundstone, you get to about 23,000 spell resist, 22,000 physical resist. And that's if you, like I said, you equip a sword and shield and you grab the Lady Mundstone to change your Mundstone to that. And that makes you a more effective tank. It doesn't make you the best tank, it just makes you a more effective tank. And then you can also change your traits or your attribute points from 64 stamina more into health, take it up to a 34, whatever you want, and then put the rest back into stamina, so your stamina pool always stays higher than your magicka pool. There's a lot of different options, guys. So, moving on. World skills, soul magic, take the ones that are going to best reflect you. Always get soul summons, and I'm going to tell people this all the time. Always get these, because this one allows you to revive once an hour without a soul gem, and this will allow you to, every time you kill an enemy, to fill an empty soul gem. On my main right now, I have like 200 and something empty soul gems with like 500 and something filled soul gems. And that's because I get so many empty soul gems and full soul gems from just playing the game. Moving on to guild. Fighters Guild, we do unlock all the Fighters Guild abilities just in case we need them in different situations. Same thing with Mages Guild. Abilities and passives that best reflect our ability to play. I do take Structured Entropy, the reason why, for tanking. I can get 8% more max health out of my character. Sigic Order, do the same thing, take the skills and abilities. I even take Min Spirit to be a healer. Undaunted, I take the skills, the active abilities and the passives especially, but the abilities here are primarily for when I'm playing different roles. When I'm playing support, I can throw out orbs. When I'm playing a tank, I have a damage shield. When I'm being a tank, I also have another taunt. I have this for when I'm playing a damage dealer, if my group needs it, and then I also have this for support or healing, or even tanking. My choice. Alliance War, I have Aggressive Horn for if I'm playing a tank or I want to offer some group support. I also have Resolving Vigor for some group support or healing. And then I also have Razor Caltrops here for damage purposes. It's also a great support for CC. Then I have Replenishing Barrier, Effective Purge, and Stalwart Guard. All these skills, again, are basically just suggestions and what I would choose. You don't have to choose the same skill morphs I do. You can use whatever ones you want. But I'm just showing you how you can use the skills to your advantage depending on what role you want to play. And you don't always have to play a tank, a healer, or damage dealer. You can choose to be a support character. You can choose to be a tank. Or you can choose to be a damage dealer. Or you can choose to be a healer. And the character's primary role is a damage dealer. And that's what I'm showing you. Alright, so let's go over the orc passives because I haven't done these in a while. Brawny, this one increases max stamina by 2,000. This helps a lot. Also, Unflinching Rage gives you increased health, and then when you deal damage with a weapon ability, you heal for 660. This can occur once every 4 seconds, and I do want to point this out. Weapon ability. That means any weapon ability. That includes Restoration Staff ability. Well, I shouldn't say weapon ability like that. It depends on if it does damage. So if it's a weapon ability that can do damage, then you can heal from it. So even a Destruction Staff will heal you. Moving on, Swift Warrior, increase your weapon damage by 528, also reduces the cost of your sprint by 12%, and increases the movement speed bonus of sprint by 10%. This makes you a very agile character. That means when you sprint, you move fast. If you dodge roll and sprint, you move really fast. And that's because orcs get that higher sprint capability. So that makes it really good for them in moving around, especially in Cyrodiil. Alright, so now that you guys have seen that, let's go ahead and finish this off by talking about the crafting skills. Alchemy, medicinal use, when using a potion, resulting effects last 30% longer, so this makes your potions last longer. And then provisioning, gourmand, and connoisseur. Both of these will make your food and drink durations 20 minutes longer. So right now, using the dubious Cameron Throne, that's actually 2 hours and 20 minutes in length. Now, let's go over the skills we have on our bar. Starting with the first ability, we have Lethal Arrow. Now, this does poison damage. So this is boosted by 400 and an extra 400 weapon damage when I use it. And then also afflicts the enemy with Minor Defile, which reduces their healing received and health recovery by 15%. We have Blighted Blast Bones. This does disease damage. After 2.5 seconds of summoning this, it'll charge after the enemy, and it'll deal X amount of disease damage to all enemies nearby, and applying Major Defile to them for 4 seconds, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 30%. Yeah, you can really mess with people with this build. The next skill we have is Unnerving Boneyard. We have this here. This does frost damage over time. Now, I do want to show you guys this, because on my back bar, I do have a weapon and spell damage enchant. So I'm going to go ahead and fire that off. Swap bars real quick, because I'm going to get the buff. Now this goes to 13,000 damage. And does over 10 seconds. And applies Major Breach and Major Fracture, reducing the spell and physical resistance by 5,280. It also consumes corpses on cast to deal 20% more damage, and an ally standing in the graveyard can activate the Grave Robber Synergy, dealing 12,424 frost damage. This is based off your max magicka and your max spell damage. Now I'm going to show you another trick. If I switch to the Tri-Stat food, and I do that again, now it goes to 15,000 damage. And 12,000 damage in the AoE from the Grave Robber Synergy. Almost 13,000. That means I'm doing more damage. And you guys are probably wondering, how is he getting more damage out of this? Well, one, I just boosted my max magic at almost 20k. On top of that, I also have on my back bar a weapon and spell damage enchant that boosts that. My front bar is Nirnhoned, so it automatically gets 1535 weapon and spell damage. See? And then you add in the other amount, which is going to be from this on the back bar. Oops. And when you do that, and you look, my character goes to 1987 spell damage for 5 seconds. Well, if I use a damage over time ability, like Endless Hail will keep that ability reapplied, constant. For the duration, pretty much. So I'm going to get higher weapon and spell damage on both bars. As you can see, my weapon does 3,130 now. Because I'm taking advantage of my character's full potential, I can actually push the boundaries of my character's damage a lot further. Alright, moving on to the next ability, we have Poison Injection. This is a great ability. It does damage up front, damage over time, and then the damage you deal over time increases by 260% more damage to enemies under 50% health. So the more health they lose below 50%, the more damage this ability does, to a maximum of 260%. The next ability we have on our bar is a Detonating Siphon. Now this thing does, as you can see, disease damage over 12 seconds to all enemies around the corpse and between you and the corpse. So wherever the beam is that connects to this corpse, you can move slightly and put it across another enemy, and it's going to do damage across them too. And then if the siphon lasts a full duration, it causes the corpse to explode, dealing X amount of disease damage to all enemies around them. And then while slotted, your damage done, all damage done, is increased by 3%. Now remember, you're using a monster scent that increases your damage done by 8%, because it gives you minor berserk all the time. On top of that, you get another 3% on the front bar. So that means this ability is getting boosted by even more damage, because it's getting 11% more damage output. So that's why I build the characters this way, to be more hybridized, so I can take advantage of every ability. Now moving on to the last ability we have, our ultimate, we have Toxic Barrage. As you can see, this does X amount of damage over 4.1 seconds. After the barrage ends, you poison the enemy, dealing an additional X amount of damage over 8 seconds, and you can move full speed and are immune to all disabling effects while channeling this attack. This is a wicked ability. Alright, moving on to the back bar, starting with the first ability. We do have Trap Beast here, or Rearming Trap, and this basically, it takes 1.5 seconds to activate. It lasts 1 minute to arm itself, it takes 1.5 seconds, and then once it's armed and it fires off, then it is, when it's triggered, it does X amount of physical damage, and X amount of physical damage over 6 seconds, immobilizes the enemy for 6 seconds, and grants minor force, increasing critical damage by 10%. After being triggered, the trap resets and can be triggered one more time. So it actually resets, and then 1.5 seconds later, boom, you get minor force again. So you get minor force twice for the duration of this. So this is how we can keep this applied and focus between the two bars. Moving on to the next ability, we have Acid Spray. I know a lot of people are going to wonder, why are you using Acid Spray? Because it does poison damage. That means it's going to deal X amount of damage up front, it's going to deal X amount of damage over 4 seconds, and this is going to allow us to boost our damage with this setup. The next skill we have is Endless Hail, and this does launch a multitude of arrows in the air, dealing X amount of damage every 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds. This just does damage. That's it. But it's what helps keep our one ability applied, our damage over time, because if you use these two abilities in succession, what happens is this thing will proc the damage enchant, then this will start proccing the damage enchant. And remember, this lasts 10 seconds, this lasts 4. By the time you do this, a light attack, and this, you're down to 2 seconds left on this. Then you get 10 seconds. So you technically get 12 seconds here of your damage over time. Or not your damage over, your enchant, your weapon damage enchant. So, weapon and spell damage enchant. Now, moving on, next ability is Skeletal Archer. This does summons a skeleton that fights by your side for 16 seconds. He does an attack every 2 seconds that deals X amount of physical damage. Each time the archer deals damage, the next attack deals 10% more damage than the previous attack, and it creates a corpse on death. Now, this is not the one we're going to be using to use the one ability on the front bar. We're actually going to use our Blast Bones for that. Now, next ability we have is Summoner's Armor. This is going to reduce the cost of our Blast Bones and this Skeletal Archer by 12%. So it's going to save us resources while it's active. It does cost magicka to use, but that's fine. And then it does create a corpse on cooldown. So when we use this, we can actually use it in succession, sometimes with this, and it'll use the corpse from that to activate this. It's pretty cool. Last but not least is our final ultimate, and that is the Pestilence Colossus. This thing just smashes the ground for 3 seconds, and every time it does damage, and then the damage is increased each hit. And then on the third smash, or on every smash, it also applies Major Vulnerability for 3 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 30%. So remember, first smash, 3 seconds. Second smash, 3 seconds. That's 6, or 3, 3, and 3. And it reestablishes that 3 seconds each hit. So technically, the first hit's 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So you get 6 seconds in total of Major Vulnerability. That's why it's so cool. and one of the reasons why I like to use it. So that's the skills. Now we're going to go over CP, and this is where people are going to question, well, how can this thing be a healer if you don't have the CP set up for it? And that's because right now it's set up for damage dealer. CP changes based on the role you play. The red and green will stay the same pretty much, except for maybe this tree right here, the middle tree in the green, the lever, and then the trees here will change, but only by a minor amount. So let's go ahead and start with the red tree. We have 56 in Ironclad, reducing your damage taken from direct damage attacks by 20%. We have 20 in the medium armor focus, increasing your physical resistance by 1900. We have 18 in the spell shield, increasing your spell resistance by 1729. Going on over here with 31 into thick skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. We have 43 into hardy, reducing your damage taken from physical poison and disease damage by 10%. And then 43 into elemental defender, reducing your damage taken from flame frost, shock, and magic damage by 10%. When you move over here, we have 40 into bastion. This increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. And then we have 19 into quick recovery, increasing your healing received by 5%. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do you do that? How would you change this for PvP? I just take the points out of here, put some into here, and summon to here. I also take out a Bastion too. I take this down to 10% because in PvP shields aren't as strong, so you can actually give this up and you can put into Expert Defender, which reduces damage taken from light and heavy attacks, and this reduces critical damage you take by a higher value. So in PvP you're going to take critical damage quite a bit, so this will help you reduce that critical damage by a larger portion than having this here. Moving on to the green tree, we have 40 into Warlord, reducing your break free cost by 16%, 16 into Sprinter, reducing your sprint cost by 10%, 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing your bash cost by 10%, and then moving on over here, we have 75 into Mooncalf, increasing stamina recovery by 14%, and then 43 into Tenacity, increasing your Magicka and stamina of your fully charged heavy attacks by 10%. If you were using a Resto Staff, you could move 75 into Arcanist, and that's it. Because your Resto Staff is going to work better off of this, Tenacity. Because you're going to get 30% return on your heavy attacks towards Magicka. This is going to give you another 10%. So that's a 40% increase of resource return. When you add that to the base 30, that's a 70% return increase. So it's really powerful. Now moving on, we have 40 into Tumbling, reducing your dodge roll costs by 16%. Remember, we're wearing 5 pieces of medium armor. We get it 20%. That's a 36% reduced cost. Then we have 40 into Shadow Orb, reducing your block cost by 16%. If you have the 8% from the block cost thing, that's 22%. Or 24%, sorry. And then with the Sword and Shield, you get 36%. So when you put the 32 and 36 together, you actually go to 68% reduced block costs. So it's almost 70%. You actually can save a lot of resources by having this here. And using the Sword and Shield. Moving on to the blue tree. This is where you would change if you're playing healer. You'd probably put more into Elfborn. I would probably just change this more into hybrid and go 23 here, 43 here, 16, 16, 40, and then 43, 23, 23, because you can do that. We have 43 in a Bless, though. This increases our healing done by 10%. This is if we do use any healing abilities, we can boost those heals, regardless if they're stamina or magicka. Moving on over here, we have 35 in a Physical Weapon Expert. This increases our damage done with all physical damage weapons. That means bow, dual wield, one-handed sword and shield, and bow weapons, or two-handed weapons, and werewolf form by 20%. That's light and heavy attacks. Then we have 40 in the Mastered Arms. This increases our damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. We also unlock the Butcher, which increases our damage done with light and heavy attacks when the enemies below 25% health by 5%. We also get Reposit for when we're tanking. And then moving on over here, we have 56 in the Mighty, increasing your physical, poison, disease damage done by 12%. 56 in a Precise Strikes, increasing your critical damage and critical healing done with stamina abilities by 20%, and 40 in the Thaumaturge. Now I'm going to show you guys a cool trick here, because somebody asked me, is there a way that I could get higher penetration value without sacrificing too much? That's how you can do that. You can also do this if you want, and you're not going to sacrifice a whole lot, and this is going to take you up to about 2388 physical penetration. You can even do the same thing if you're playing more Magicka base, so I'm just letting you know that now. And that is the CP for this character. Now I am going to show you this character in action against 2 target skeletons, and then I'll take it into a dungeon and show you guys what it's like in there. So we're going to go to our Dubious Cameron Throne, and then we're going to grab our Warrior Power Pot, or our Stamina Power Pot, and we're going to use it, and then we're going to just go to town on this thing. Okay, 26,000, is that at 25,000? I've gotten this thing up to almost 30k on that guy. It does a lot of damage. As you can see, we get 3,674 weapon damage. This is without the 400 from our, the Swamp Raider. So we actually get about 4,000 weapon damage with our poison and disease abilities. We do have a 65% weapon critical, 80% critical damage, 6,780 physical penetration, and then moving on down here, you can see that some of our abilities hit for some ridiculous amounts Our Blighted Blast Bones are hitting for 26k. This is hitting for 31,000. Acid Spray starts at 10 and then ticks for about 26. Poison Injection hits for about 7, but that didn't crit. If it were to crit, it would do more. So that's what it pretty much looks like. And now we're going to see what it would look like in an organized group dynamic. That means if you are playing with one of every class in your group, giving you every beneficial benefit you can get in the game, plus every, like, kind of benefit you can get. So, buffing up. And we are going to use synergies while we're doing this, and we are going to use an ultimate. And 3. And then swap bars, redo this all over again. So we got up to about 43k DPS with this. Now in an organized group, and somebody who can actually pull this off better than I can, you're looking at about 45k DPS consistent. And that's if the person's really skilled. Now, if this was a build using Reliquin instead of this, you could easily pull 55k DPS, if not more. So, I'm just letting you guys know that this build is actually really powerful. So, and as you can see, when we do get the bonuses here, we go to 13,000 Magicka, 22k health, and 34k stamina with the benefits from everything that we can get. That means Warhorn up all times, minor brutality, minor savagery, minor toughness, Hircine's Veneer, Worm's Remnant, minor sorcery, all that stuff. It will give you a lot of buffs. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set this for more of a solo play, so I can take advantage of the character in a little bit more gracious way, if you will. So I'm actually going to grab this Intensive Mender here, and I'm going to and I'm going to change out an ability on the front bar. I'm actually going to change out Poison Injection for the Bone Shield. And then we're going to go jump into Depths of Malatar with this. Now, I probably will be able to make it to the boss. I don't know how well I'll be able to do against the boss because I'm not using a better heal than the Spirit Mender. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. And if you guys didn't know, Depths of Malatar is one of the latest dungeons added with the Wrathstone DLC, and it is considered one of the more challenging group dungeons out right now. Well, this one and Frostvault. And if you guys are wondering why I'm not doing Frostvault, because Frostvault requires a 2-man or more party in order to defeat, because the boss has a one-shot mechanic that can be avoided, but also, if you don't know about it, you will get hit and you will die. So. Oops. But as you can see, this build is actually really cool. It's got lots of survivability to it, which is nice, but it's also got a lot of flexibility to it because of the fact that it can do so many different things. Excuse me. Alright, he's dead. Now we're going to go in here and, of course, we're going to face down the big ugly wherever he might be. I have a feeling he might be coughing hairballs around the corner here. He is. Oh, now I'm gonna die. See, like I said, I'd probably die because of the fact that the Mending Spirit doesn't heal for that much. So it's one of the reasons why I don't use it a lot of the times. I use other things. But I figured since I'm using the Summoner's Armor, I'd use it. And you got to remember, I'd also be in here with a group normally. If I was to solo play with this build, I'd probably go with something like the Enduring Undeath, or the Resistant Flesh. This would probably be a better option because this also gives me resistances equal to the amount, half the amount I healed for. So it allows me to be more mobile. And using Tri-Stat Food would have probably helped out more because I'd have a higher Magicka pool. So I could use my Magicka stuff more effectively. But that is the Bone Stalker Ranger, guys. I hope you guys like it. I have to admit, I was really surprised at how well this worked out. It is a really cool build. It is a lot of fun to play. It's just amazing. So, but that's it for the video, guys. You guys know what's coming next. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.